Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, all the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Hi, folks. Cesar here. It's February 2021, and it's back in the saddle. We've got a great show today for you. Thanks for tuning in. My first guest, quite frankly, you probably know him, great friend of mine, my good buddy, Steve Descano. He's a Commonwealth attorney for Fairfax County here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we're going to have some great discussion. Steve, welcome to the show. Thanks for making time.
Cesar, thanks for having me here. I always enjoy having the opportunity to sit down and talk to you.
You've been busy, my friend. I don't even know where to start here. We're going to talk about cash bail. We're going to talk about mass incarceration. We're going to talk about community trust. We're going to talk about related reforms, any type of expungement that's been going on, scams. You've been busy, my friend. So let's just kick it off. Congratulations on what you've been doing so far. But let's, man, no longer cash bail. That is music to a lot of people's ears, man. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And cash bail is a big deal. It's a thing that is really, really important to build in a fair justice system, getting rid of it. Because as you know, cash bail essentially is the amount of money that a judge will make someone pay to get out of jail as they're awaiting trial. Now, that is problematic for a number of reasons. The first is that, oh, and by the way, these are individuals who are not dangerous or a risk of flight. So this is the amount of money a judge would make someone pay who's not dangerous or a risk of flight just to go home. And that's hugely problematic for a number of reasons. First of all, from a fairness angle, creates a two-tiered system of justice, one for the rich and one for everybody else.
Right.
But the other thing is it actually creates more crime down the line. Study after study after study has shown that sitting in jail even for a day or two, simply because you can't pay cash bail, that increases your chances of recidivism even years down the line exponentially.
Right.
So,
I can't work, right?
You can't work. And if you think about it, think about that person who's being held. If you can't afford cash bail, you're likely to have a job that you don't get vacation days on. So you very quickly lose your job. And if you lose your job, you're probably going to lose your house or your apartment. And my God, if you have a family, you're somebody who lost their job and lost their apartment and is stuck in jail, you might lose your kids. So in a couple of days, just because you can't afford a couple $100 in cash bails, you can really lose your life.
Yeah. It's cyclical, right? It's perpetuating the very criminal activity that we're trying to ultimately avoid, I think.
It absolutely is. And that's why what we're doing is if we have someone who is not a risk to the community, not a flight risk, what we're doing is we are no longer asking for cash bail. As a matter of fact, we are, if cash bail is put on by a lower judge or a magistrate, we're actually asking for that to be taken off. The idea is it's better for everybody in society for that individual to be at home working their job, raising their kids, without regard to how much money they have. And when they are out awaiting trial, we also have a great set of programs where we can hook individuals up with interventions to help them get at the root causes of why they got arrested in the first place. So from a fairness angle and from a safety of the community angle, getting rid of cash bail is just a no-brainer win-win situation for everyone.
No, I love, Steve, that you get it. I mean, talk about cause and effect, right? I mean, you're in a situation where if you're making either minimum wage or, as you said, you're not in a position with benefits or personal time off. I mean, it is an economic, pressure. It's a burden. It's look, people shouldn't be committing offenses anyway, right? But it's almost like it's a punitive sort of state mandated thing. So I love that you get it, man. How's the reception been out there? What sort of feedback have you been getting? Because people like me love this, so just kind of want to hear what you're hearing.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I will tell you that most people that I talk to, they love it. They think it's a great idea. As a matter of fact, it is one of the things that I ran on doing. Cesar, you know me, I'm not a hide the ball type of guy. I went out in the community for a year and a half and made this argument and told people explicitly, if I was elected, I was going to do this. So people are really, really excited to see this happen, because we've spent years explaining it to them, making the argument about how this is, it's good for communities, it's good for families, it actually creates less crime. And there is that small minority of people who want to fearmonger around anything reform related, and want to try to tell you that the sky is falling because someone who's not a danger to the community, who can't afford $500, gets to sleep at home that night. But the fact of the matter is, we have very, very smart people in this community. We've gone out, we've made this argument, and they get it. So by and large, the response has been very, very positive because people realize that it's a positive for the community.
Great, great. No, I'm thrilled. I again, just from a fairness, justice is supposed to be equitable for everyone. It's in the sense that it should be fair, not based upon whether or not you can write a check for $100K or $1 million to get out. And in this case, we're not even talking about like hardened criminals, right? These are just kind of like your offenses that aren't in any way some sort of criminal activity that would cause someone to be super afraid of having this person walk the streets or something, right?
That's right, 100%. And that's why, look, in this job, I'm trying to build a criminal justice system that keeps our community safe while it's still fair and equitable to everyone. And that's why the first thing that I instruct my prosecutors to do on these cash bail determinations is use all the resources we have to try to determine if this person is a danger to the community. Because quite frankly, if you're a danger to the community, no amount of money that you can pay is going to make you safe. And
Right.
Those are the people that we want to hold pretrial. But everyone else, it doesn't. If you're not a danger to the community, it shouldn't matter how much money you have. You deserve a fair shot at justice and a justice system that treats everyone equally, regardless how much money they have.
No, agreed. And look, we can go into a whole nother show about just the history of inequality of just the justice system. But I'm glad you're there, man. You're making a difference, and I think that's great. You touched on it a little bit in terms of mass incarceration, right? I mean, help me understand how it high level, how it's there, and what can we do to address it?
Well, mass incarceration is an incredibly difficult problem, and it really is multifaceted. What we're talking about when we're talking about mass incarceration, Cesar, we are talking about a pretty expansive thing. It is more than just the number of people in jail or prison at any one time.
Yeah.
When we're talking about mass incarceration, really what we're getting at is people who are involved in the justice system one way or the other that don't need to be there because they know they don't represent a threat to the community, or they've been rehabilitated, or for any other reason. All mass incarceration reflects is the idea that there are people who could be free of our justice system, should not be justice involved, but the system is such that it perpetuates on itself that people simply can't escape, or quite frankly, that we as a system have even given up on trying to help rehabilitate these individuals and get at the root causes of their problem, where the system just thinks, look, let's just keep these people in jail as opposed to trying to help them. And that is what, when I talk about having anti-mass incarceration policies and taking anti-mass incarceration steps, we're talking about that, attacking it from all of those angles because it's so multifaceted.
No, and I think, again, it goes back to what we were talking about initially, right? I mean, again, if you don't address things like cash bail, you're only increasing the number of people you're putting into the system, either by default, deliberately, or just as an unintended consequence, right?
Absolutely. And that's why actually, when we talk about multifaceted, we're trying to attack it at a bunch of different levels. We actually just put out about a month ago what I like to talk about in the office as our anti-mass incarceration policy. Mm-hmm. Because obviously one of the first things, as you mentioned, cash bail, but there are other ways to attack mass incarceration. Diverting people, keeping them out of the system completely, trying to immediately help them get at the root causes of their issues is a way to attack mass incarceration. And in that policy that we just released, we are making a priority to put people in diversion programs. And we're looking to do more around that, because really at the end of the day, if we can help someone get at the root causes of their issues and go back out and be the members of society we want them to be. That's really what this what the system should be all about. So doing that outside of the jail or the prison setting is a huge win for not only that individual and their family, but for the community as a whole. That's one way. That's at the front end. We talk about later in the process. Something that I know you care about: mandatory minimums. Mandatory minimums help fuel mass incarceration. And for people who don't know, mandatory minimum is, the minimum, something that the legislature would put in to say, if you do X, you have to get at least this much time in jail. And the problem for that, Cesar, is it really warps our system of justice. You want your judges and the people who know the facts of the case determining what the best outcome for each individual case is. Right. Mandatory minimums, all we do is every problem is a nail, and we only have a hammer. So what we're doing is we're building our plea agreements around mandatory minimums so that we can try to fashion the actual fact-specific outcome for that case to try to get at the root causes of what's going on here. And in some cases that may be jail, some cases that it actually may be the same amount of time as the mandatory minimum, but it's a process issue that allows us to get to the right outcome for every individual case, making it more likely that we'll be able to help this person and get them out of that cycle of recidivism.
Yeah, what a concept, case by case decision, right? So who'd have thought? No, that's great. Again, I'm so glad you're there. You've got the progressive view. You want to be in touch. I mean, I just think, I hope it continues to get better. It sounds like you've got focus on the policies to help address it. And I think, like most people, it'll get better as long as you're in that leader's chair. And so more power to you. Let's talk about another thing. We're kind of at this weird point in our society and the country and the community, the county, trust, right? I mean, there's this whole thing around just trust in the community. And I know you've been kind of speaking to the whole, this, community trust policy and, how you're approaching the problems in the community by focusing on trust. I mean, I think that's a really good way to approach it.
Well, well, thank you very much, Cesar. I will say that trust with immigrant communities is incredibly important. Yeah. And, I will tell you, indulge me in a quick story, if you might. When I was a federal prosecutor, I had a case down in Miami where individuals who were new to the country, many of them without status, they were being extorted based on their immigration status. They were being extorted for thousands of dollars. And when I took that case, what I quickly realized is that while those victims were afraid of the people who were victimizing them, they were actually more afraid of me as law enforcement. They thought that what they were being told was true, which is me as someone from the government would come down and not really take their claims seriously, but hand them over to ICE. And that really stuck with me because I've seen that same fear here in Fairfax County, where individuals who are victimized, who see crimes, they're so afraid to come forward and be part of the process because they're worried about what the outcome with ICE is going to be. And that's why when you talk about trust, we've put out our new trust policy. The idea being that we want to build trust in that community and let these individuals know that we're here. We'll treat you as a victim. We'll treat you the same as we would treat everyone else. And you can trust us that we will not be turning you over to ICE because our job is to keep our community safe. And when people can come out of the shadows, that's what really makes our community more safe.
Yeah. Hey, think about it, right? You're talking about community outreach. I mean, it's much easier to police a community that is involved with its law enforcement, right? I mean, just like, to me, it makes sense. No, I think that's great. How's it being received out there, though? I mean, what are the local sort of enforcement agencies? How's that being received from your perspective?
It's actually really, really, the response has been really gratifying. Because I think, when you mentioned from local law enforcement, I think that our frontline law enforcement officers, they realize that when victims don't report crimes and when witnesses won't come forward and participate, that it makes it impossible to take really dangerous people off the street and keep our community safe. Really, all you're doing when you have whole communities who are afraid to reach out to law enforcement is you're creating pockets of victims just sitting there for people to take advantage of. And I will tell you that to a person, the law enforcement professionals that I work with share my view, which is we should be doing what it takes to keep our community safe. And it doesn't matter what someone's status, immigration status is. If they're a victim of a crime, they deserve to be helped through our system. So they see this front line and they realize that building that trust in the community helps them do their job, which means it helps keep our community safe. And that's our shared goal. So I will say that the response to the trust policy and coming out, taking a hard line, saying that we're not going to be turning people over to ICE for civil deportation hearings has been uniformly positive.
Yeah. No, I love it. Look, there's a crazy concept, right? Equal justice, right? So it's just, if you're part of the community and you're contributing in a positive way. Look, my parents, I think I've shared with you before, my parents, they didn't come here, completely legally, right? I mean, they got in and they stayed and, they built a life here and later became citizens. But they didn't do it for criminal reasons, right? I mean, they truly believed that this is still the opportunity place. I mean, America is the land of opportunity for so many people, for so many immigrants. I mean, I think I shared with you here in Herndon, we have a huge minority immigrant community. And that I'm loving what you're saying. I think, other, Commonwealth attorneys across the Commonwealth can take some cues of leadership from you. And I think we're coming up on our first break here, but I just wanted to tell you again, I think you're doing a great job. I think the people of Fairfax County are lucky to have you there. And look, I just know when you lead, you face the brunt of attack at the point, right, of the merits of the policy or the position. So more power to you. We're going to take a short break here. I think we're going to be back here. Steve, we're also going to bring in my colleague from the Herndon Town Council, Naila Alam, who's been contributing here with the immigrant community and making Herndon a little bit more inclusive. And again, I think we need this across Fairfax County as well. So let me count it out for the break here that we've got coming up. And again, do appreciate you always making time for us, and we'll see you on the other side of the break here.
Demonstrate, and that's exactly how anger works and operates. Man, you gotta have love just to set it straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love, y'all.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. When you practice what you preach, but you turn the other
Ma'am,
cheek.
you forgot your purse.
Oh, you don't know how worried I was. Thank you very much.
Hey.
Honesty. Pass it on.
Nice move, kid.
Donut?
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Hey, chat. Why do I wear a mask? Because when I'm not behind the screen, my mask is my cheat code. And when we stop the spread, we level up. What's the next level? Hanging with friends again. You're right, masks have always been a part of our community. I miss you guys too. Being face-to-face is truly the next level. Here's the cheat code. Stop the spread of corona. Mask up, America.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
America, land of the free. It's at the core of who we are. Freedom. The freedom to live without fear, to drive through all 50 states, to sleep safely in our own beds, the freedom to jog where we please, to watch birds in the park, to wear a hoodie, the freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because no matter your religion, gender, disability, age, race, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is gonna help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi, folks. Cesar here, back with our second half of the show. Thanks for coming back. If you missed the beginning, my special guest is the Commonwealth Attorney for Fairfax County, my good friend, Steve Descano. He's joined us for a special show today. Appreciate him being on. So, Steve, again, appreciate your time as always. We ended the last segment kind of talking about some of the accomplishments you've had here, specifically in Virginia. But I want people to know how much of a leader you are. You've actually been working with other progressive Commonwealth attorneys at the state level, right? Can you share with us some of the initiatives that you're kind of pushing with them?
Absolutely, Cesar. I'd be happy to. Myself and a few of my progressive prosecutor cohorts around the state, we put together a group called Virginia Progressive Prosecutors for Justice. And in total, we represent about a little over 40% of the state. And really the idea is we've been really engaged with state delegates and state senators to try to codify some of the reforms that we've been bringing to our localities into state law. The idea being that we can move Virginia in a more forward-looking way of doing criminal justice, and really try to build a criminal justice system that's fair and equal and equitable for everyone throughout the state, not just if you happen to live in certain areas of the state. So we are really been pushing on things that are about equity, about fairness. A great example is expungements. We have been really working with state delegates and state senators to get an expungement bill passed. And expungement, for those people who don't know, is the idea that if you've been convicted of a crime, after a certain period of time, after you serve your debt to society and you've stayed out of trouble for so long and done everything that the system has asked you to do, you should have a clean record. And the reason for that is not having that clean record actually consigns you to a second tier of citizenship in the community. It's more difficult. If you have a record, you can't get a job, you can't get an education, you might have difficulty finding a place to live. And while that is incredibly unfair for those individuals, it's bad for the community as a whole, because if we really want to give people a second chance, we got to give them a fair second chance. And if you can't get a job or a place to live, all that's doing is pushing you down the path towards more recidivism. So again, this having expungements passed in Virginia, which by the way is the law in most other states around this country. Giving people that opportunity is not only about fairness and equity, but it's also about improving community safety. And that's really the needle we're trying to thread. We talk about that. We talk about things like ending mandatory minimums, getting rid of third strike laws, just really, really important things that are going to drive our criminal justice system forward.
So in terms of like voting, right? You hear where someone has a felony and they've got to write a letter to the governor, and I mean, is that affected by this? Is that one of the things that you're talking about?
That is one of the things that we've had conversations with our delegates and senators about. It's a separate issue than the expungement, but it really is about the same thing, though. It really is about fairness and about really welcoming someone back into our community, which I think you and I share as what should be a key goal of our system, right? If we really believe that our criminal justice system can be rehabilitative, can help people get at the root causes, and can return them to the community and better than what they came in, then we have to treat them as equals in our society. We have to actually give them the opportunity and the ability to vote and have a say, the same say that your neighbors have, is important to that. I will tell you, I've heard so many stories from people who had been justice involved, who had gotten their rights restored so that they can vote. And the emotion that they would have in their face when they told me about how, even though they've been out of jail and out of trouble for 10 or 15 years, that voting, having that right back, really made them for the first time feel that they were really welcome back to their community.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I've got a dear friend that was kind of like on that. He had done something dumb when he was young, right? And that was still on his record. And he couldn't vote, and it's like, wow, it's not just enough to do your time. There's this whole other process that kind of labels you and brands you, and it's another burden. And like you said, it affects your job status or credit ratings and all these other chances and opportunities. So I'm glad to hear that's happening.
Yeah, I will say that the appetite for this type of change at the state level, we've seen it in the localities, but at the state level, it's really there. And it goes back, I think, Cesar, to something that you've mentioned 2 or 3 times already, or you've alluded to. And I think people are now just starting to understand, which is the criminal justice system is not separate from the community. And your involvement in it doesn't necessarily end once your court case is over, or even if after you've served your sentence.
Yeah.
It can follow you around, and it can really cap what you're able to do for the rest of your life. And really what we should be focusing on is, how can we build a system that keeps us safe, but at the same time actually cuts recidivism and actually restores people so that they can be the person in the community that we want them to be. Because I can tell you, without these changes, without these types of reforms, all we have is a system that, it takes people away from the community and returns them back to the same community they came from. It returns them back in a worse way, and with less options, with a worse outcome, with a worse future than when they walked in. And that's not helping anybody in our community.
Well, that's not rehabilitation, right?
Right.
When you rehabilitate anything, it's back to or better than it was, right? And that's just, it's counterintuitive in that sense. So kudos to you and the other Commonwealth attorneys that you're part of the progressive wing there. So any insight on some of the other things you guys are planning on targeting?
Well, yeah, there's a lot happening. The expungement bills, a version has, as of right now, a version has passed the House and a version has passed the Senate. We're hoping in committee that they can come to an agreement and pass that law. I think a big issue is whether the expungements are free and automatic. And what I mean by that is that they're automatic and you don't have to hire an attorney to get your record expunged. And that's a fairness issue, because if you have to pay an attorney, we both know that poor and working class individuals are not going to have that spare money, and their record is going to follow them, whereas a more well-off person who made a mistake is going to get that record expunged. So clear, free and automatic is what we're hoping for, and that'll be a huge thing. Some of the other things that we've pushed on, we've already seen move very, very quickly. We pushed for abolishing the death penalty. And it looks like that has passed both houses, and that's going to be law. We're also hoping that we can get rid of 3-strike penalties around larceny in our criminal code, so that we could do what we talked about earlier, which is actually fashion the right outcome based on the facts of the case. So I'm very, very hopeful that these things that we pushed on are going to happen, because we've been working so hard, and quite frankly, we're really, really blessed to have people who are working down at the state delegate, state Senate level, really pushing for the change that I think our community really wants.
That's great. Look, I mean, some people are a little bit adverse or frightened of change, but look, the society has to transform, to keep up with, the different sort of drivers and these other vectors coming in, and we have to stay up to date with the needs of the community. So I think this is wonderful. And again, to you and the other sort of champions of change, I think it's only going to make it, a kinder place. Look, you break the law, you get punished, but there shouldn't be this sort of additional burden that just by default makes it harder for people to get back on their feet, and once they've done their time, to get back out there to be contributors to the community, because that's ultimately what we all want. That's all about having a safe, inclusive community. So more power to you. Anything else you want to touch on before we go into the next topic?
Well, I think, just as a general, to wrap up what you said, that's absolutely right. And that goes back to the mass incarceration issue we were talking about before. And that really just shows how interconnected this all is. And at the end of the day, what I think my job is, Cesar, is to bring the values of the community into the courthouse, the values that you just spoke about. And that's what we're doing here in Fairfax. And that's what we're hoping we can get passed in the law, so that those values are reflected throughout the Commonwealth.
No, that's great. And again, I have faith that you're the right person for that. So keep fighting. What is it? John Lewis said, fight, always have the good fight, or the good trouble, or something. Just
we're always make good trouble, and that's which is, I know what you do too. So we're that way.
You got to disrupt things from time to time. That's how you get the change.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Caitlin, be serious. Now take the oath. Come on. I'm totally taking this seriously. Okay, I'm ready. You may begin. I pledge that I will never meet in person with anyone I first met online without checking with my parent or guardian. And And furthermore, if my parent or guardian agrees to the meeting, it will be in a public place, and my parent or guardian must come along. Do you pinky swear? I do.
When you teach your kids about internet safety, they'll pass it on. For more information, go to cableclicksmart.org.
Nice going, Spencer! I can't believe we broke Old Man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We?
Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious?
It's my ball, Myrtleback.
You're so dead. I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go.
See
you, dude. See ya. Remember me and your well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Keep smiling, keep shining.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He does the work of 2 jobs, but only gets paid for one. He's tough enough to feed the man that gave him a lifetime of nourishment. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. That's right. No employee of the month bonus check here. This guy, no, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. Good luck finding a gym to train for that. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Our fight against coronavirus isn't over. Let's wear face masks in public, stay 6 feet or more from others, follow state and local guidelines, and wash our hands frequently. Let's move forward together. Learn more at coronavirus.gov.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Thanks for coming back. If you missed the beginning, my special guest is the Commonwealth Attorney for Fairfax County. On that note, there is another, there's a guest standing by, and a colleague of mine on the Herndon Town Council, first time elected to public office, Naila Alam. I'll ask our producer to bring in Naila. Naila, thanks for joining us.
Oh, yes. Hi, Cesar and Steve.
Thank you. Hi, Naila. So we wanted to also talk to you, Steve, about one of the concerns that Naila and I were talking, and we share this as a common sort of concern within our communities. And we just kind of wanted to run it by you and see if there's something you can guide us with or help us with. But there are communities, and remember, I've said it before, Herndon's a majority minority immigrant community, much like the county is, right? And there are particularly vulnerable groups when it comes to scams or specifically targeting non-English speaking individuals. And it seems like this is growing and growing in occurrence. And I know, Naila, you had a couple folks that approached you and asked you, do you mind in just elaborating a little bit about some of the things?
Sure. Okay, so as you just mentioned, that there are people who are not a speaker of English language. They are the ones that get targeted because their names are different and people can figure out if they are from here or if they are immigrants. So mostly those people are getting targeted, and some of my friends did get targeted. And what happened is that one of a friend got a call that she has to pay $3,000. Otherwise, the police will come and arrest her because she has to pay some money to IRS. She was so afraid that she did manage to get the money, and she then sent the check to the address that was given to her. The other friend also had a similar problem. And the third one now has a problem that she didn't pay her bill. And the call was from the Dominion Energy or something from the electricity or the water bills as well. So we are getting calls from different organizations asking to be paid to them.
Yeah, and Steve, to add to that, we may not have all the solutions here, but I got to tell you, I received a call as well, and I know it was because of my last name, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I almost fell for it because they called and they said they were from some collection agency that my sister had taken out something for in my name, and that I had to go to a Best Buy and buy like this card and pay off the debt. And I would give them the number, and as I'm pulling over, you know, I pulled over and I'm listening and taking notes. I go to drive to the Best Buy, and then it hit me. Like, wait a second, who would call and ask me to pay off a debt that I don't know about and just give them a Best Buy reward card to pay off the debt? So this stuff is happening. It's definitely, happening to people with different last names. And I don't know what can be done about it, but, is there a way at the county level or the state level, some sort of process can be invoked to maybe deter or find some of these folks?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I will tell you that is something that happens unfortunately all too often. I will say, Cesar, your story and Naila, the stories you told are stories that I've heard. As a matter of fact, when I was a federal prosecutor, I dealt with some of these cases, and they are endemic, and quite frankly, they do aim at vulnerable populations. So what we're doing now is we're partnering with Naila and yourself, Cesar. We're trying to get the information out to the community via all different languages, and some advertising that we're going to be doing, letting people know that, particularly during tax season, which is going to start very, very shortly, to be wary of these calls. The IRS is not going to call you and ask for your personal identifying information. No legitimate government agency or collection agency is going to try to tell you to get a MoneyGram card or anything to transfer money. And what we're really trying to do is get out in the community and let people know who to call, call the police department, call my office, and know that you don't have to be afraid. We're here to help. We're here to investigate these crimes, and particularly for the members of our community that are undocumented or non-citizens, that they don't have to worry about deportation or ICE consequences, because quite frankly, that worry is why individuals with Hispanic sounding last names or for example, are the ones that get targeted because of that ingrained fear. So what we're trying to do is get that message out and take that fear away so that we can get the reports and handle these situations.
That would be great. I mean, if there's something that we could, circulate in multi languages, just contact information, because I mean, you said it. There are some communities that have people that are afraid of government, officials, and they would just assume get ripped off and live with that than report the crime.
Yes, I have, Cesar, I will tell you in my experience, I have seen that firsthand and actually have spoken to victims who've told me that they've given away thousands of dollars and they were too afraid to call authorities and too ashamed to tell their families. So they just decided to live with the loss. And people don't need to be victimized in this way. We're here to help. And that's why, like I said, Naila and I, we've been working on this for a few weeks now since she first brought this to my attention. And we're going to be getting the word out to all different communities to let them know this is the number you call to report this crime, because it is a crime, and it's something that we take very, very seriously.
That's great. That's great. That's great to hear. I'm glad I'm glad we can certainly make that known. Again, this is about awareness, and I think the more people are aware of it, the more that light bulb will flick on, like it did for me. It just something sounded weird, but I was afraid that, oh my gosh, maybe my sister was too embarrassed to tell me, so let me go take care of this. And the average person might go through that same thing. You're like, wait a second, this sounds legit. The number sounds like the number, and obviously it's a ghosted number, right? You can't return a call to it. But I just think, look, maybe I'm just benighted or naive, but I almost fell for it. So I feel bad where you've got a lot of people that have lost thousands of dollars. And that's not a good feeling, and it's even worse feeling where you can't share that with anyone. So I'm glad you'll have a message alert, especially around the tax season here.
Yeah, that's right, Cesar, and I'm so grateful for Naila for reaching out to my office when she did about this issue, so that we can get this out and really start to talk about it in a unified way around tax season, because tax season is a big season for this. But what we want people to realize is it's not the only season for this. Every season comes with a new scam. These individuals are very resourceful. And I will tell you, Cesar, I personally have very, very good friends. And one of them, and they're from outside the country. And one of them is a professor of engineering at a major university. And he almost fell for the same scam. So it will get anybody if you don't have the information and know it's a scam.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing too, right? And I know you guys are working on this, but just for the viewers, I mean, it's not just phone calls, right? And people threatening you on the phone. It's emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's social media. It's all sorts of different channels that this stuff is coming through.
Yes, Cesar, it is. All the advent of social media has allowed these scammers to increase their reach. And I will tell you, they will go high tech or they will go low tech. High tech, obviously, very much in the social media. When I was a federal prosecutor, I had a case where the victim was an elderly woman, and in the middle of her being scammed, she was had to make a visit to the hospital where she needed to spend some time, and the scammers got her hospital information and started physically sending her postcards. So these individuals can be relentless, and they will go through high tech or low tech. That's why it's so important that people are armed with this information and that they don't need to be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Because I will tell you very, 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 very quickly, if you were to call my office of the police department and explain what was happening, we would be able to tell you and set your mind at ease. You are in fact being the target of a scam right now, and that is what we're encouraging people to do. Even if you're in doubt, call. We'll set you on the right path.
So that number to call, I think I see, is 703-691-2131 to report a scam.
That would be the number. That's the number that I'm glad you told your audience about it. That's the number to call, and that is the number that's going to be on all the flyers and advertisements that we're doing, especially during this tax season when we know that these scams increase in number.
That's great. And again, folks, that number is 703-691-2131, and that comes directly from the office of our dear guest here, Steve Descano, Commonwealth attorney. So his team is going to be fighting for you. Naila, any other concerns that you had?
Yeah, I have actually a question about this scam. That if somebody's calling this number, what they need to tell? Like if suppose if I get a call, so do I have to save that number and forward that number to you?
Well, Naila, that's a great question. I would say any information that you could provide would be useful, but there is no minimum amount of information. As Cesar mentioned, a lot of these numbers are ghost numbers.
Yeah.
But really, what we're trying to do is, if you get a call, just call the number and relay as much information as possible. Every little bit helps. And, quite frankly, from talking to victims of these scams in the past, I know it helps individuals who receive these calls to just have a number to reach out to and just give that information and get that assurance that that it is a scam, that you were almost victimized. So whatever information these individuals who get a call can remember or write down, have that information at the ready and call the number that Cesar just put on the screen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and something also for our audience and viewers. I mean, look, again, I have no ego with this. They almost got me, all right, and they preyed upon the urgency, and it was probably a random guess that my sister was in trouble, and she ran up all these bills, right, and look. It's just a way that they target you, and it's not just people with different last names. It's senior citizens, right? It's the immigrant community, and if they sound like English is the second language, then absolutely those are the numbers that they're going to continue to target. And I just think you're doing a great service by announcing this and letting people know that these scams are out there. But to your point earlier, Steve, it's not just around tax season. They are relentless. They are always doing this. And I think mine was back in the fall or early fall time. And again, I will share that with everyone. They almost got me. So, they're out there. And, I was just one of the lucky people that just stopped and something didn't feel right with it. So, but again, it's not just phone calls, it's emails. Right? It's potentially threatening emails like you're in danger, or you'll get a call from someone claiming to be from the sheriff's office, right? From some other county in some other state, and they called my mom saying my niece was being held and she needed bail. It's just like, it's crazy. And they're out there. And, luckily my mom used some language that I won't quote, and she questioned their lineage, but not everyone is that savvy, right? And that's just I think this is the thing that we have to, especially in this county and certainly in the Herndon area where you have a large immigrant community.
I think that's absolutely right. And going through this story and those experiences really hit home some of the things that we want people to remember, which are, if it doesn't feel right in your gut, it's probably not right. If somebody's on the phone telling you that you need to do this right now, it's probably they're using that urgency to scare you to move. People should just remember that whether it's the IRS or most other government agencies, they're not going to call you on the phone and demand personal identifying information. They're not going to tell you that you need to run out to your bank right now and do something. So those are the things that we want people to watch out for. If it doesn't feel right, take that beat and just really think, because if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right.
Yeah. Or ask for a number and I'll call you back, because the number they give you isn't going to be that. Naila, sorry, I interrupted you, Naila.
Yes, and another question that I have, and I wanted to really work on this one as well, is that there are so many community members from like immigrants from especially from Middle East and Southeast Asia that get targeted by robbery and theft in their homes, and they are afraid to share with their own community members. So when they migrate to USA, they bring all their gold, which is 22 carats, and a lot of gold, because there is a tradition of wearing gold, and it's a way of doing investment in Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and Middle Eastern countries. So they are, if something happens to them, they are afraid to share that to their own friends so that the others can do the same thing and be careful and take some necessary steps. So I really want to partner with your office, Steve, and if we can do something about this as well to make the community aware, and also if we have some solution. Thank you. That's my last question.
Well, thanks, Naila. I would love to continue to partner with you on that. Making sure that everyone, regardless of what your background is, what your status is, gets the fair protection of the law, equal protection of the law, is something that is a driving force for me and my office. That's why we're working really hard to let members of all communities know that you can come to us. We're here to help you. We're here to serve you. So that would be the message. And Naila, I will tell you on that specific issue that you've raised, I would love to continue to work with you, because what I want to do in this office is be responsive to the entire community. And that really means digging down and seeing what specific issues might resonate with one part of the community, and trying to dig in and offer solutions for that. So I'm happy to continue to work with you on that.
Thank you, Steve.
No, that's great to know, Stephen. We only have about 2 minutes here, and I think if you'll indulge me, I'll just say what a pleasure it is to have people like you in leadership that get the importance of equality and representation. Too many times, and I hate to admit this, even as a Democrat myself, people get into office and they forget why they're there. You are not there to make friends, Steve, right? And I don't need to tell you this. You're there to do the job, right? That's why we love you, man. I mean, damn the friendship, right? I mean, you need someone to love you. Get a dog, right? Get your
That's right.
So it's people like you, that people like me and Naila and our constituents, we need you to keep fighting that fight, man. It'll be tough at times, but man, it feels so good knowing that we have people in leadership that get what they need to do and why they're there, man. I personally want to thank you for always making a difference, man. Really.
Well, Cesar, that is very, very kind, especially coming from you. Thank you very much. I will say, you're right. The job is not to make friends. The job is to do the right thing. And in my case, the job is to bring the values of this community into the courthouse every single day. And that's what we hit our prosecutors on every single day. That's the driving force of our office. Because when the chips are down and you get to right to rock bottom, what it is we're here to represent the community and do the right thing for all the community. And that's what we're endeavoring to do. So it's very, very kind, especially talking to you, since I know you are a values-forward leader yourself, as is Naila. So thank you very much.
So when all this COVID stuff's over, Steve, you got to come to Herndon. Let Naila and I take you to lunch and have some tea.
Yes. Please do
Looking
come in.
forward to it. I'm going to hold you all. I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay.
And can I thank the vice mayor? I'm so lucky to work with the vice mayor and the Commonwealth attorney. I'm very happy to know you. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thank you to my guests. And we're going to turn it back here, come back to our next show. And again, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you on the rebound here soon.
Thank you.